if you struggle in pass pro, it ruins everything. I mean, it's such a tough spot to be in, especially in the modern game.
Hello, and welcome to episode 242 of the Cover 2 podcast. My name is Luca, and with me there is Simon.
Hi.
And Andre Simoni, like always at this time of the year. Hi, Andre, how are you doing?
Our annual tradition, guys. How many years is it now that we've done this? Maybe 5?
I believe it is. It's the 4th or the 5th year.
That's an important date for us, important anniversary. Yeah, no, pleasure to be on here. And as I was telling you off air, with my Broncos fandom and focus on that team, it's the first year in a while where I'm not, having to really obsess over top 10 picks and multiple picks in the second round. And for a while, especially with the Aaron Rodgers rumors to Denver, I was really worried I wouldn't have like draft picks to talk about for the next 3 years. I'm actually relieved it was just a couple first, a couple seconds, and we'll be back at it in 2024 in full. But now hopefully I have more time for you, right?
Sure, but we'll count on you next year as well.
Exactly, always. The draft doesn't sleep, Luca. I'll still be doing my weekly pod, you know this.
Very good, very good. All right, the plan for today is to talk about the draft, some questions in general for you, and then we'll focus on running backs and the offensive line. I'll split it into 2 parts, inside O-line and also offensive tackles. As always, we'll count on your expertise. Like you will present us with your rankings or tiers, like you said before, and we'll chime in and give our takes to those players. But I guess let's start off with some general stuff about the draft. There's some consensus negative opinion about this class right now. Do you think this is because of the kind of bad quarterback play this year, or don't you see it as critical as most people do?
Yeah, I think the quarterback play and just maybe the lack to some extent of big stars in this draft class, especially from a college football standpoint, big stars to follow all year and really get excited about. The big star would have been Kayvon Thibodeau, but then he was kind of injured and Oregon really didn't do much. Aiden Hutchinson then emerged. And I think that to some extent, the criticism of this class has been a little overblown. You have a lot of talent at some key positions. And I think really, even the star power of like the wide receiver position is being maybe undervalued a little bit because so many of those guys, right as they were about to explode during their college football season, got injured. And, like I hear a lot of comparisons to the 2013 draft, which is one of the first draft I really did publish my rankings, was doing weekly podcasts. I remember that draft. That draft was truly terrible. This, I think, is a much better draft, both in high-end talent and depth, though maybe it certainly isn't one of the strongest classes that we've really gone crazy over in the last 3-4 years.
So you talked about high-end talent and depth in the class, which is pretty huge this year.
Yeah.
I think so. Maybe you can give us a take on which you think is the class or the position group with the most high-end talent, and maybe the position group with the best depth on day 2 and maybe day 3.
That is a phenomenal question. I think the most high-end talent and kind of best position would be a very hard choice for me between edge rusher, offensive tackle, and wide receiver. I think wide receiver probably wins out as the deepest class, and the deepest class in day 2 talents, as you mentioned, just because I think we've had such a depth of wide receiver. It feels so redundant. I'm saying the same things every year when I come on your podcast. But it's just been the case with the college game being all based around 3, 4, 5 wide receiver sets. We are just having all the best athletes coming out of high school being put at wide receiver. And there's just been such an influx of talent at the position over the last several years that I think inevitably you'll see some of those day one, borderline early day two talents drop even further than where they usually might. So I think that's the position where you're really going to have teams find some great opportunities to add talent later in the draft. And as far as the absolute best high end, I think edge rusher and offensive tackle are right there.
Okay, and also COVID protocols at the combine were lessened, and most prospects had somewhat of a full season of college football this past year.
Yep.
Are there any big changes you've noticed this year in this year's evaluation compared to the last one, or the one before even?
I think this was the year where, and this probably plays into your first question, and kind of a more at large discussion on what the perception is of this draft and why it's perceived as a lower tier than most and kind of a really weak draft. I think, and why in some ways it is, because I do think while I say lots of high end talent, maybe I should push back because the level of elite grades in this class and the level of true first round grades in this class are not going to be as high as some of the better years we have seen as of late. But I do think that this was the first year, more so than last year, where there were already some major established stars, both the ones who were able to hold out or the ones who went back and played college football in sometimes empty arenas. We had a lot more breakout stars here. This was the year where the preseason rankings really kind of got flipped on their head, because what we had seen the year prior to this to make those rankings was a little different, right? It was a little conditioned by all the circumstances that occurred in that COVID season. So I think we saw guys break out a little more. I think even a guy like Aiden Hutchinson, it's going to be hard for him to carry an elite grade for me when, a season ago he only played 4 games and maybe only one of those or 2 of those were truly dominant. Same thing with Kayvon Thibodeau with having some injuries in this last year. It just feels like opportunities were a little fewer. Obviously the schedule was much different last year, so we really had to adjust and kind of reevaluate and re-rank this class in year 2, or going from the preseason rankings to where we're at now.
All
if
right.
that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. Because we're kind of on a time limit,
Yes.
I'd suggest we get right into it.
Sounds good.
In terms of O-line and running backs, how would you describe this class? Is it more top heavy, or is there a wide range of talent for those two position groups?
I think the O-line class is really quite special, and really has a lot of high-end talent. And the interior group has some pretty good depth. Offensive tackle is one of those positions. It's almost like quarterback at this point, where if you have the high-end talent, your depth is very relative to what kind of depth you can get on most years. Yes, in that sense, it is deep. Is it deep like most other positions? No, just because there are only so many humans in the world that can actually play left tackle in the NFL.
True.
So you're just limited. In the interior group, I see a lot of talent, especially if you start to look at some of the offensive tackles, and you start to shift them on the inside. Kenyon Green, Darian Kennard, Salier out of Georgia. You start to Zion Johnson, who played plenty of tackle at Boston College. If all those start to be considered interior offensive linemen, wow, we have a a really nice class. Decent high-end talent. Maybe not some of the insane groups of interior offensive linemen we've seen some years. There's no Quentin Nelson, unless you think Ikem Ekwonu is the Quentin Nelson of this group and should just play guard. Then, okay, we could talk about that. But there's really nice depth and then really nice high-end talent on the offensive tackle. Running back, nah. It's not a special group. Honestly, kind of a group that got saved by a new track at the combine where we saw some insane numbers.
Yes.
So we saw some of the fastest running times I can ever remember from a running back group. That kind of saved this class, which otherwise was lacking a bit in star talent, and to some extent, first group in a few years that doesn't have that DeAndre Swift, that Christian McCaffrey, that receiving back that you say, wow, maybe he's only going to have 10 carries per game on average in the NFL, but this is a running back that can really be a factor in the passing game. Even Clyde Edwards Hilaire. We'll go over these running backs. There are some that have some qualities in the passing game, but you don't have that new age running back that gets you really excited. And the depth is okay. The depth is going to suffer when the guys at the top aren't all that great.
Yeah, then let's start off with the running backs. And like every year, there's the discussion of or about running backs, taking them in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe it's not as loud as it has been the past
Right.
few years with Saquon Barkley or, for example, last year, Najee Harris and Javonte Williams. Is there anyone you'd even consider taking in the first round this year?
It's something I've told a lot of people. This is one of those drafts where the variance between how you rank prospect 22 to prospect 80, a lot of teams' 80th prospect might be another team's 22nd and vice versa. In that sense, the end of the first round, I could see anything happen. And if a contending team who feels they just need one running back, so if the Bills selected Kenneth Walker at the end of the first, something like that, I wouldn't be shocked and I wouldn't criticize the pick. You know what I mean? It's just one of those drafts where whatever. Like the picks 25 to 32 are basically second round picks anyway. So we're splitting hairs at a certain point. And even if you look at some betting props here in the US, like Breece Hall to be selected in the first round is like decent value, plus 140. So the book is telling you that's far from impossible, Kenneth Walker plus 300, Isaiah Spiller plus 500. Doable, long shots, but not impossible by any means. I guess that answers your question. I'll stop rambling.
Okay, then let's get into your tiers. What are those and who's in there?
Yes, we have talked about this in years past. I have, an elite tier, a top 10 consensus, top 10 player most years, more of a Pro Bowl projection, a first round projection, which is a future starter at their position, potentially like a top 12 player in the league, someone who's going to get fairly high-end money on their second contract. Then a first to second round grade, so end of the first, early second, where those players usually have a ton of upside. And that's the first tier where I would have really considered a running back. Kenneth Walker, who I really like, could fit into that tier just with how dynamic he is and everything. I really like his vision, and the fact that he ran a 4.3 doesn't hurt. But he's going to slot into a second round tier, which is someone projected to be an immediate contributor in more of a rotational role in their first year, and projected to compete and be a starter within the first 2 to 3 years. So, at least half of that rookie contract, you're expecting someone to give you starter level contributions. And Kenneth Walker falls into that tier. As I mentioned, he was the only one who I kind of considered putting in the tier above. And Isaiah Spiller, who I really love. I just wish he could have shown more natural hands and a little more experience in the passing game, because I really think he has the kind of dynamicism and open field running ability that could really transform him into a special talent at running back. I'm very high on him. And then Breece Hall, who I was shocked by how fast he ran, but still that was kind of the last box for him to check, is a very nice speed. So I think all those guys, while maybe not stars, have the ability to be very early contributors, compete for starting spots very early on, and all bring kind of different qualities to your offense that could really add another element to it.
Of those three you named, I.F. Kenneth Walker is also my running back number one,
Nice.
followed by Breece Hall, obviously. And Isaiah Spiller, that's why we love having you on here,
Yes.
didn't even make my top 5. How about you, Simon?
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of
Simon.
no, it's Kenneth Walker one for me too. And one thing about him, we saw, for example, Leonard Fournette, a pure runner. I think you know him better out of college, but he advanced his receiving game majorly
Yes.
this last season and this last 2 seasons. And I think why wouldn't Kenneth Walker do the same thing? We just haven't seen a lot from him in the receiving game, so why would he be bad?
Right.
So I've got him for my clear number 1. I got Breece Hall at 2, and I got Isaiah Spiller as my number 4.
Okay, so not that far.
Not
as harsh as Luca. Luca, what's your biggest concern?
I don't know. It's more that those other guys have a bit more that I like. For example, there's James Cook as a receiving back, has something that he can be used in the NFL in a special offense. What do you think about him? I think with his speed, like I said, with his receiving ability, he's not that good of a runner, but I think that teams can make it work with him. And I don't see that with Spiller quite yet.
I like James. I like James a lot. Came into the season thinking Zamir White was going to be the star out of that backfield in Georgia, and then James Cook really played well. And I think you have a spot-on assessment, not only the receiving game. I think, if he turns into more of just a north-south type of runner, and I always like to kind of buy into bloodlines, guys who can just pick up a phone and call someone, like he can call Dalvin and get some advice on the field and what to read and what have you. I think especially in like a zone blocking scheme where things are, you're reading the cutback lane, you're reading your one lane, you got to hit that hole on time, get downhill, and boom, then it's just up to you to make a guy miss. He could really succeed and have a lot of upside. I just haven't seen a ton of it because Georgia was such a split backfield and he really came on last year. And so there's a lot more projection for me over an Isaiah Spiller who, look, I got to project a little bit with the receiving ability. I love what Simon said about the Leonard Fournette. It's so true. Like you have to kind of reinvent yourself at a certain point. It's like NBA big men need to start shooting long jumpers once you get to the NBA because you're just not going to dominate in the post. That's just not how the NBA game is played anymore. So you need to evolve your game. I think if Spiller does that, I really feel good about him, and I really feel good about him. He's another guy, you put him. There's so many of these zone offense schemes in the NFL. He's a big back. You get him downhill, you get him going. There's a lot to be done. I will say this though, Luca. I have like Kieran Williams out of Notre Dame, who I know has lost a ton of love because he is not one of those guys who ran well at the combine. But as far as receiving backs, he is one that I am very high. He's my 4th running back. And Devontae Price from the little Florida school is a kid that I already had my eye on, and he just stood out to me every single rep at the Senior Bowl. I really thought he looked good.
Yeah, Karen Williams, he ran a 4.65, I believe.
Yep.
Which is kind of concerning with that good turf you already mentioned.
Yeah.
But I'm also interested in the complete opposite back, considering James Cook, and that is Tyler Allgeier, some kind of a bruiser, some might say. Where does he end up on your board?
Yes, from BYU. I like him
Exactly.
because he is that bruiser, absolutely. And another guy in all these zone schemes who I could see fitting really well, just downhill. He's got the good vision. I think his feet are decent, and I love how strong he is on his lower half and how he just bounces guys off. I
Damien
do
Pierce.
wonder what's the ultimate upside though.
Okay.
And can he be more of a dynamic back in space, or is he more just a situational back to get downhill and what have you? Then, I say that he's going to be, if he's drafted by Simon's 49ers, all bets are off. He could be the new Elijah Mitchell, and have a great season here. But I like him more of a borderline top 10 talent. Like I'm more of a believer in Damon Pierce, for example, if we're talking big bruising guys, or a Zamir White, if we're talking more upside guys, than I am Algier.
How about you, Simon?
I love Tyler Algier because of what he's able to do. Got him on my number 6. I got Damon Pierce on my number 3 because because of kind of the same thing. Strong lower half, able to break tackles. They are athletically not the best burst or anything like that, but I think what you said about those zone schemes and maybe the 49ers offense, those guys, you love speed, or the 49ers especially love speed. They don't have
They
that
do.
long speed, but they can see a hole, hit it, and
Right.
maybe you need 2 or 3 guys to stop him. And that's what you get, what gets you 10 to 15 yards on a regular basis, and you can move the chains with those guys. So I love this kind of running back in this class. And Algier, I said Algier in my prep too. Algier is the right pronunciation, right?
I
I
I
believe
think
so.
I believe so. But then, guys,
Sounds
in
better.
Italian we'd say I need to pull your ears. I need to, if you like that kind of back, how are you justifying Damon Pierce ahead of Isaiah Spiller? Isaiah Spiller is that kind of back.
Is there, before we move on to the tackles, is there anyone we haven't talked about yet you want to mention in this segment, Andre?
I'm very intrigued by Jerome Ford, the former Alabama transfer to Cincinnati, with his speed. Have cooled on him a little bit because I was less impressed than I would have liked at the Senior Bowl, frankly. Brian Robinson Jr., if he could stay healthy, if I had any guarantees there, is, a guy who NFL coaches are just going to love and will have an NFL career for 10 years simply because he's such a reliable pass protector and he can, grind out 3 yards on 3rd and 2. So maybe not, not the far from the sexiest running back pick, but a guy that NFL coaches and quarterbacks and teammates are going to love. And the last guy I'd mention is Rachaad White out of Arizona State, who looked really, really good at the Senior Bowl, like a consistent standout in practice, which is always a very tough scenario for running backs to stand out in. I think there's some intriguing upside. Arizona State was just an absolute disaster the last few years. A program that's under scandal. They basically can't even recruit right now. Herm Edwards is just in a really tough spot coaching over there. and I like his
Yeah.
elusiveness. I like how he can slip away from guys, kind of break that extra tackle. You know, he's maybe not going to be like the guy Simon highlighted, where he's bouncing guys off of him, but he's kind of slippery and will get by. I think he's an intriguing guy to look at early day 3.
All right, then I believe it's time for the tackles.
Let's
And
do
it's not as easy as with the running backs.
it.
Finding that consensus number one. Those 3 guys are all over the place with Evan Neal, Ike Mekwonu, and Charles Cross. Who is your number 1? And what I'm interested in is, in comparison to the last few drafts with standouts like Sewell last year or Tristan Wirfs,
Yeah.
where would you rank those guys of this class in comparison to those guys?
I think I don't feel as good about anyone as I did Sewell in this class. But
Yeah, I remember you had an insane grade on him last year, right?
Yeah, very high, despite the arm measurements. And hopefully you proved me right in Detroit. That's a tough scenario to succeed in. I think just barely that Wirfs, Andrew Thomas, Jedrick Willis, Mekhi Becton, those 4 from that year, I think they were that was a more high-end top 4 than what we have this year. But I mean, just barely. I do think Evan Neal ranks higher to me this year than anyone did that year. So while the 4 as a whole that year might have been higher, this group has the more talented tackle prospect, though he's not as talented as Penei Sewell. So there you go, and I already spoiled it. Evan Neal is my top prospect at offensive tackle.
Which order is yours, Simon?
I thought it was pretty difficult to rank those guys. I think it's some kind of sympathy to one player or another that puts him ahead in a special kind of way. I think they are all on a very even level all around. All those guys have different projections where they can succeed in which scheme. I have Evan Neal as my 3rd ranked, but it's more like an 1A, 1B, and 1C for me, I think.
Yeah, that's all so much variance in this group.
Yeah. What do you like most about those guys?
Evan Neal is just crazy with his size, and I've watched so many offensive tackles who have all the upside in the world and are highly touted, highly ranked coming into the draft. And I just think, wow, they are so passive in college. They should be dominating. They should always be the aggressor, the first one to get their hands on someone. Evan Neal is that. Evan Neal is like when I listened to punk rock the first time, I always listened to music saying, why can't they play it faster? And finally I listened to punk rock and they played it faster. That's Evan Neal and his ability to get on top of guys, get his hands on them, really lean on someone. You know, he's not waiting and showing you all the nice footwork for you to make your move and then counter you. That's Charles Cross, who's unbelievably fluid in pass protection. Evan Neal is that aggressor. He could be so much better athletically, moving downhill and getting to the second level. And I will tell you, Evan Neal is one of the worst. You know the term anchor for an offensive tackle. So when you sit back, you sink your hips, your lower base is wide, your hands are strong, and you're able to just anchor and basically sink in like a sumo wrestler and hold the guy off. I've never seen a top prospect as bad as Evan Neal at this. But he doesn't have to do it, right? That's why he has to always be the aggressor. He has to always come forward. And I don't think it's a balance issue. I think it's more a combination of balance, footwork, more upper body stuff, hand technique, and it can all be worked on. I mean, it was incredible to see those pictures of Evan Neal at the combine weighing almost 340 pounds, but looking like a skinny tight end. He carries his weight so well. He's so big that I really think once he fixes a few of these things, it gets his weight distributed a little better, gets smoother in getting to the second level, gets his technique better in his anchor, the upside is absolutely unlimited. And I think the floor is also pretty high with Evan Neal because he could be a dominant right tackle. Because that what Evan Neal is what you want out of your right tackle. Cross is the second one for me, incredibly fluid, upside off the charts. I went long on Neal, so I'll keep it short on him. But pass protection is really incredible. Obviously, that Mike Leach offense, there's a little bit of projection with the run game, playing hand in the ground, all that kind of stuff. And if you watch his 2020 tape, there's a lot more inconsistencies. So we are having to buy into Charles Cross a little more than these other top guys. But I'm willing to buy in because the upside is otherworldly, astronomical. Teron Armstead levels to me, like could just be athletic freak, fantastic pass protector. Love Ekwonu, and he's my third, but we can get into him in a second. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because so you value pass protection over run blocking because that's where
exactly
Ikem Ekwonu excels. I believe he's the best run blocker in this class, but like you said before, he's also one candidate to maybe move inside, depending on where he ends up. Do you see any kind of upside with him and pass protection?
Oh, sure, I see upside. Because he's it's what we call teach tape when it comes to a few different traits with Ekwonu. It's explosive hips in an offensive lineman. He just jumps off the tape. I mean, he takes a few steps and guys are just bouncing off of him. His hands are so violent. Again, like you rarely see guys who can move people at the point of attack as effortlessly as Ekwonu does. It's a joy to watch. And then the way he can move, incredible. This draft game is all. I used to get really heated about stuff and have my guys and stuff, and I've really approached it more and more from more of an analytics, almost like a handicapper perspective. It's all about extra margins. And Evan Neal has all the extra margins in the world with his length, his size, his strength. Charles Cross, he has he has growth margins to where you can project and see him becoming a better pass run blocker and what have you. Ekwonu with that size, a little limited. So his growth his margins are just limited. So Ekwonu has to play at 100%, and if he has a slip up because he doesn't have that size necessarily, because he isn't the longest guy, especially just like actual height length, guys can kind of get by him and stuff. Maybe it might be able to get him a little easier on a counter, right? Because he doesn't have that length to recover and still get you that those other two guys might get. But I still think he's a left tackle. I still think he's a first round left tackle, and the traits he does have jump absolutely off the tape. And it's not so much in the right scheme. Ekwonu needs to be in a team that plays with the right mentality. That's what made Quentin Nelson so great, is that offense plays with a mentality that matches his style of play. If they were a finesse offense, if they were the Chiefs and they were dropping back to pass 42 times a game, maybe Quentin Nelson wouldn't be Quentin Nelson. Maybe he'd get more holding flags because he's being asked to pass pro more often. And, so that's the other thing. He more than the other guys needs to really be put in the right place to maximize everything he brings to the table.
Okay. Maybe Simon, start us off with some guys a part of those top three who are some guys you like?
Yeah, I got two guys, and that are my obvious number 4 and 5 guys. I think those guys are your number 4s and 5s too. But
Let's see.
Yes.
I'm interested if I'm being surprised here. And the order in which I got those two guys, it's on 4 for me, Bernard Ryman.
Same.
And on fifth place, it's Trevor Penning. I like both of those guys. They are both first round talent at the tackle position, and but they are so different from each other.
Yeah.
And I like the Penning part so much about how physical he plays the sport, and he doesn't stop. He doesn't stop kicking your ass on defense. He gets a lot of penalties. That is a red flag in this kind of way. But I've read so many times now. It's better to get this kind of level, this level of aggressiveness a bit down than to get it up. So
Right.
I love him. I love the mentality he plays with, and he might also be the best run blocker in this class, maybe over Ekwonu. I
Okay,
think,
that's a hot take.
and because of his mentality, Bernard Ryman is a different kind of guy. He's maybe no, he's not a bigger projection because he's already so good technically
Right.
at his position, and that after 2 years, I guess, on as offensive tackle,
Yeah.
started at tight end. Also, he's an Austrian. Some European players in the NFL. That's awesome.
Love it. Yes.
I love it, and I see you can really see how far he can go as an offensive tackle in the NFL after playing this game after only 2 years at the position,
Right.
and that's something I think most teams in the NFL might be intrigued by too. So he's a 4 for me, but it's more important, I guess, here too, which kind of player you like. I think the Bernard Ryman upside is so big and so huge. I love him.
Andre, do you agree? And do you have some concerns considering that Trevor Penning didn't had that much of competition with mainly FCS teams he played against? And also, is it possible for Ryman to make that kind of development he, like Simon mentioned, already made on a college level in the NFL?
Yes. I agreed with Simon's rankings coming into the Senior Bowl, and then
Mhm.
the measurements on top of, and they are two interesting prospects to line up with each other because Ryman has better tape. I think Simon put it well. Maybe there's certainly more splash plays with Penning, but I think just play in, play out, more consistent, smoother offensive lineman. No doubt it's Ryman. On top of the fact that I'm I value pass protection much more than I do run blocking. I'm worried about that arm length with Ryman, and I think it's why he's dropped a lot. He's a really tall guy with short arms, and again, that's just extra margin. So when his footwork's off, or when he bites on that fake on the first move and now has to recover, he has fewer margins to recover and make up that space than he would with 34-inch arms like Trevor Penning does. I also think Trevor Penning's going to be an absolute flag machine. He reminds me of Garrett Bowles. He reminds me of Lane Johnson. I worry that he's limited maybe to right tackle with that mentality, that he's more that guy you want to run behind, but in pass protection, you do give him, that extra tight end help on the right side. And I like them both, but neither for me warrants a first round grade. Both for me have enough questions to where they're in that late first, early second range. And I will say, Simon, you assumed we all had the same 4 and 5. So we're all out on Kenyon Green at offensive tackle.
Yeah,
I
I
am.
like him
I
better as
am.
a guard.
And we definitely like him better as a guard, I understand, but there are only so many humans in the world who can play left tackle in the NFL. I think he might have the raw tools to be one of those rare humans.
Yeah, maybe depends on where he ends up. I also have Tyler
Yeah, that's
Smith,
true.
like someone who has that skill set, has that flexibility, and maybe will get a chance to play
Hmm.
as a tackle. But
Mm.
to settle this once and for all, who's the best run blocker? Is it Trevor Penning or is it Ike Mekwonu in this class?
I mean, the things I said about Iquanu earlier, I think say everything. I gotta see Penning do it against higher levels of competition.
Okay, okay. Then is there anybody we've missed? Maybe someone you are higher on than a consensus?
I really, really like Jamari Salier. Is it the left tackle out of Georgia? Um,
Mm,
there are times where I watch his tape, and I know most people project him to go inside at guard, but I feel he is really not that far off Ekwonu. Then there are other times where Ekwonu just does freakish stuff. That Salier isn't at that level, but I think I think he's not that far off a prospect like who was that other um, the Patriots drafted Georgia left tackle who everyone thought would have to be moved inside to guard. I'm completely blanking
mm.
on his name, and he ended up staying at tackle and having a half decent career. So, anyways, I like him. I'm higher on him than most, and I think his floor is really high because he could be a really good right guard, if nothing else. And I'm really high on Abraham Lucas. Obviously, that tape against Kayvon Thibodeau goes a long way. And my bias for pass protectors really shows on this one again. But I think Abraham Lucas out of Washington State has a lot of talent and could be, he carries a second round grade for me. And I think he's a guy who, in 5 years, when all these rookie contracts are up, could be making, 10 plus million per season.
Then I believe we'll move on to the inside and we'll mix with guards and centers.
Yeah.
It's a big question also for me, and I'll use you as my tiebreaker. I have Tyler Smith also as a guard, but it's kind of hard for me to find the true number one here because it's either Tyler Linderbaum, the obviously best center in this class, and
Mm,
also Zion Johnson, who is with him
yeah.
competing for that top spot, considering inside O line. Are those your two top guys inside?
Yes, if we put Green on the offensive tackle spot, those are my two top guys on the
Yeah,
inside,
yeah,
and it's a
sorry, I forgot to mention Green is my number three inside, considering him as an inside pass protector or run blocker.
right, right. No, Green is the top guy for me, but between Lindenbaum and Zion Johnson, a really interesting conversation. At some point in the process, I was a little higher on Zion Johnson just because of that versatility and body. Um, I just, again, talking about margins and like scheme
Mm.
fit and everything, you have a lot more options if you draft Zion Johnson than you are when you draft Tyler Lindenbaum. That's just plain and simple. But Lindenbaum he's kind of like Creed Humphrey last year, who I was extremely high on, but was
Mm.
also, like pretty scheme limited. And Humphrey, it's not so much, or Lindenbaum, it's not so much scheme limited. It's more position limited and limited in size. But
Yeah.
what he does so well. And I just love offensive linemen like that can get downhill, that can really like set the tone and just suck to play against for 4 quarters. Zion, I love. I've been really high on. I even think he could give you like 10 snaps in a game at left tackle and not sink you. Um, shout out to the Bengals and their right tackle for completely losing them the Super Bowl. Just as like an example,
Yeah.
to put it in practical terms. Even though
Mm.
he won like the award for best offensive lineman at the Senior Bowl, I thought Zion Johnson played pretty poorly in practice too in the rain. And those are tough settings. I thought he played really well on day 1 and was fine on day 3. That did kind of leave an off taste in my mouth. Where I think Lindenbaum guarantees more star upside for me, Zion Johnson projects to be really, really good at potentially 2 or 3 different positions. I wonder if he's a star. And honestly, I've kind of been burned by guys like Lloyd Cushenberry, and he just a smidge gives me Lloyd Cushenberry vibes. So I like Zion Johnson. I know it made it sound like I see him as a 3rd round talent. I still think he's like a 2nd round talent and a really good future pro, but Lindenbaum's got a little more special to him.
Okay, then that's settled. Simon?
One question in that regard. What's more important for yourself evaluating an offensive line player is a player who is versatile, because you have a 17-game season, you have the playoffs. We saw many examples on what can go the wrong way when you have injuries on the offensive line. We got the Chiefs 2 years ago. We got the Bengals last year, not because of injuries, because they sucked. But I think it's so unbelievably important for an offensive line to have those guys be changeable on the
Right.
offensive line, and that's I think what teams are chasing for today, because you don't you need more like 7 or 8 guys who can start at an average level, at least, more than you got 3 top guys and the rest is kind of a gamble. What's your opinion on that?
No, absolutely. I think it's a great point. I think with the increase in injuries and the extra strain on the 53-man roster, versatility, especially on the interior, is key. Versatility and having kind of a plan B at right tackle is key. And maybe that's not your backup. Maybe that's having to convert your right guard to play those right tackle spots and change your scheme a little bit, where we're playing more, 12 personnel with a second tight end in there to help that right tackle out, but still keep our play calls the same, so we're not going away from the run game, and we're really hammering the run game on that right side and making the defense think about that a little more. The problem then, Simon, comes down to, for every NFL team, once your left tackle's out, your left tackle's out. Like you're dead at sea now. You're just the vultures are circling, because now you got to make up for your right tackle. Maybe you convert your left tackle. Maybe you convert your right tackle to your left tackle. So yeah, I mean, you should always seek depth. If you can, you should seek high end depth. Like, I thought I was maybe critical of what the Saints did in loading up on offensive linemen for the last 5 years. In retrospect, I think that was a genius idea, and they did, they really nailed that. And as soon as some of those guys, as soon as Teron Armstead started to be injured a little too much, though, even they, with 4 first rounders on their offensive line, started to suffer. It's it's a tough job. So you need to seek out pass. I mean, that's where depth is needed, but depth is needed really in pass protection, because we can figure everything out. We can run the ball based on personnel, play calls, reading the defense. We can find ways to effectively run the ball. We're not going to be the best run team in the NFL, but we can find ways to effectively do that, even though that's not going to be like our identity or something we're able to set the tone in. If you struggle in pass pro, it ruins everything. I mean, it's such a tough spot to be in, especially in the modern game. So that's why it's such the rarer trait. You really need to find as many guys as you can rely on in pass protection and one-on-one. Because by week 7, once games in November, December come around, you are going to be down a couple guys, and you got to hope your backup can hold up against Khalil Mack for a week or against Von Miller for a week, and good luck.
Yeah. Who are some other guys that made the cut for you? For me, it's, for example, Dylan Parham, who's kind of slim, but also a heck of an athlete, who, if he gains a little bit more weight, may be a suitable interior offensive lineman. And also Donovan West, who I really liked because of the point flexibility, what you guys talked about. Who are some guys you have in your top 5 as well?
I have Dylan Parham as well, and he already added some weight. He's up to 311, I guess, and that's good because he needs it. And I like him. I got him on my 4. I like him because he's technically so far ahead, and maybe not on the level as in Zion Johnson, obviously, or in Kenyon Green, but he's very versatile too. He played everything but center and left tackle. So you got a guy who can or has the chance to play on a above average level on left guard, right guard, and right tackle, and I like that a lot. He can play guard or center. There's a big drop from those top 3 guys to Dylan Parham, but I think he can be a quality starter on late day 2 or maybe late second round, I think.
Right.
And I like him a lot. My 5th guy who made the list today is Tyler Smith, because it's again versatility. We talked about beginning, is he a tackle, is he a guard? I see more as a guard, but I think too his upside is so high in this interior offensive line class, and maybe, but that's a hard projection to make. I think at the tackle position, I love him a lot too, and he played really, really good at Tulsa the last seasons.
You like those guys as well, Andre?
I like that while we're high on Tyler Smith, we're maybe not overvaluing him. Like some places that at some point had him ahead of Kenyon Green or like ahead of Raymond and like firmly into the first round. With Kenyon Green being my 1 and then Lindenbaum Zion being 2, 3, my top 5 is very boring with Schaefer Salier. I like all those guys. Who was the guy you were saying was the really versatile one? That was Farham, who you were mentioning, Simon. I missed the name on that one.
Yeah, Parham, Dylan Parham. Yeah,
Farham. Yeah. I like him too. He's just smooth, very compact. Everything he does. But it's a loaded group. I mean, I think Darian Kennard at guard, the left tackle the right tackle rather, out of Kentucky, has a lot of upside and more of a gap power scheme. I mean, really high upside in more of like a phone booth. Sean Ryan out of UCLA, who probably doesn't have the length to stay at left tackle, is intriguing in more of a finesse offensive line. Tyler Smith's teammate, Chris Paul, I think has a lot of talent. And I'm really high on Justin Schaefer, just the guy I haven't mentioned yet. But the Georgia left guard, I think him and Salier were like the stars of that offense, that program that was just so good this past season. I'm intrigued, like Andrew Stuber, the former tackle at Michigan, who will probably have to convert inside, just very solid, very technically sound. I actually thought Cole Strange was really, really good at the Senior Bowl this year. Really impressed me in 101s, even if maybe bigger guys like Travis Jones gave him some issues. I thought Strange has some real upside. He's one of those interior guys with good size and mobility who's good in pass protection too, and kind of feisty, won't back down from a challenge. So he's got me intrigued as well.
Yeah, I believe Stuber got some buzz around him over the last few days. But Thank you for this overview, considering those three position groups. To finish things off, I'd like some betting tips from
Uh,
you because that's your forte, I believe.
yeah.
Um, are there any odds you think are suitable or are very good odds right now to jump on in order to make some bucks at the end of this month?
Okay. And I want to hear what you guys think. But
Okay, okay.
I think Garrett Wilson to go in the top 10 at minus 115 is really good odds. The Ohio State wide receiver. You guys like that, or you think maybe not so good?
For me, we didn't talk about wide receiver today, but I believe Simon as well has Drake London as his number one.
I do too.
Mhm.
But I can see teams jumping on the train of him.
Who
And
is it for you? Who is it for you? Is it the Falcons?
Yeah, I could see the Falcons. I could see the Giants. Honestly,
okay,
I could see the Jets. Um,
Oh yeah.
I think everyone keeps saying, "Oh, the Jets are gonna draft an offensive lineman." They drafted Mekhi Becton and Elijah Vera Tucker in back-to-back years. I, I think they're more likely to draft a wide receiver, and add to that receiving core. So I think there
And
are
they
some
got two picks.
spots. Right, exactly. And you've got the two picks. The Giants, I think that's more of a Drake. Like, if the Giants go wide receiver, it's just Drake London because they have the receiving back, Kayvon
yeah.
Tooney, who's kind of that hybrid. Galladay can be that number 2 possession guy.
Hmm.
Drake London would kind of complete the mix. But Drake London, I could find at the same odds. Yeah, minus 110 to go in the top 10. That's another bet I love. Jermaine Johnson, on the other hand, the edge rusher out of Florida State, who got a lot of hype, I see him going outside the top 10. So over 9.5 plus 110 for him. So I think that's decent odds. I'm also going to just play a long shot. Jordan Davis, top 10 plus 450.
Oh,
Ooh, okay.
okay. What's the team drafting him? Well, who's the team drafting him?
Yeah, I mean, it could be here again. It's like the teams with 2 picks. I could see
I mean,
Carolina doing it.
Joe Douglas from the Jets, he loves his linemen, like you said.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Defense or offense,
yeah,
they are in play.
exactly. It feels very like the management in Carolina could be down with something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
What
I
were the
also
odds on Lyndon Johnson outside of the 10?
just plus 110, so
Okay.
almost
Okay.
even odds. Um, I've also placed a bet on Malik Willis to be drafted by the Lions.
Okay. At number 2
I
or
mean,
at the end of round 1?
this bet can hit either way.
Yeah, sure.
So I feel like I'm in a good spot, but I don't know. There was some buzz at the Senior Bowl, and I don't think they believe in their current quarterback. It's just that kind of class where everything's
Who
wide
does?
open. Right. Especially with Aiden Hutchinson. Like, if the local product was on the board, then okay, could have been different.
Yeah.
But with Aiden Hutchinson off the board, they already took the offensive tackle last year, which would be the best player available. I could see it happening enough to where that's a long shot that I'll just play a few dollars on. And then I'd really like to play the Pac-12 over 4.5 players drafted in round 1, but I can't. I think it's just the 4, and they're not going over.
Yeah.
And actually, wide receiver, if you think Drake London will be the top wide receiver selected, you can get that at plus 130.
Oh, that's good odds.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. Thank you, Andre, for coming on. this year again.
Always a pleasure.
We're already looking forward to next year, and also right before the season when we'll talk bets in depth. I wish you a great week. Enjoy all the vibes, like you said before we started this recording, in the new Russell Wilson
That's
Denver.
right.
That is, yeah, I only can imagine how things are going there right now.
Yeah, it's great. We're all very excited. The draft will be fun, but it'll just be fun. It won't be life or death. Did we pass on a franchise quarterback? Did we miss out on a transcendent talent? I get to relax for once, and that sounds wonderful.
All right, take care, man.
You too. Thanks, guys.
See ya.